Guess who's back? 3 and Out has resurrected right here on TV Piedmont Channel 60. I'm your host, Brian Carter, alongside Ryan Orlovsky. We pulled a Brett Favre and have made an MJ comeback for 2 more shows. What's the rundown for this one, Ryan?
On the opening tip, we debate on the Jay Cutler drama. We'll scrap together some emails on the 7th inning stretch, and third down, we have a special rundown for the best athletes never to win a championship. As always, if you have questions, comments, or suggestions, please email us at 3andoutsports@gmail.com. An email will get you a free 3 and Out pen.
We've all seen the Jay Cutler drama unfold, and now that it's had time to simmer down, let's debate on who walks away as the biggest winner, Denver or Chicago. What do you think?
The Chicago Bears definitely landed the better end of this deal. I mean, landing a franchise quarterback they've been in search of for decades. I mean, at least since Jim McMahon, he shuffled the team to the Super Bowl in the 80s. But, I mean, Jay Cutler, I mean, he's the real deal. They got a Pro Bowl quarterback that's going to make them a contender.
Well, they also have to take on that extra baggage as well, Orlovsky. It's tough to determine the outcome. It depends on what Denver's going to do with those draft picks that they get in the deal. They're in a rebuilding stage at the moment. Cutler in Chicago, it's going to be a big question mark. Here's why. Yes, they've been dying for that consistent QB. Now they've got one. I think in the short term, they have a player. It's up for Denver to make those picks into players themselves. But Cutler's going to have to earn the respect of his teammates. He's going to have to prove that everything that's been said about him is wrong. And can you name wide receivers in Chicago? Because I can't.
Not many people can.
They got Rasheed Davis and Brandon Loyer as the 2 top receivers on the team. They lost their 2 offensive tackles. Granted, they signed the injury-prone Orlando Pace from St. Louis. Yeah. But they gave up the farm for a quarterback who's got this big chip on his shoulder. And he's what they want to call a strong-armed crybaby.
Okay, I agree with you in that the Broncos are going to make out fairly well in this deal in the long term. They're getting solid draft picks out of it in the 1st and 3rd rounds for the next 2 years. But then, draft picks are always going to demand some time to mature. And Jay Cutler, he's already an established quarterback. He's going to come in and impact this right away. You look at guys like Reggie Bush, when they first came into the league, they really didn't have too much of an impact on the team. Like, look what he did with the Saints. But there's no guarantee that these first-round picks that the Broncos are getting are going to be established, that they're eventually going to unfold as a Jay Cutler-type player. But Jay Cutler, he's already established, and he's going to make this team a contender.
He is established. I think he had 4,526 passing yards, but did he get his team to the playoffs? No.
Well, a lot of that has to do with the defense. Listen to this fact right here. Cutler may be 17-20 as a starter, but when the defense holds the offense to 21 or fewer points, Cutler went an impressive 13-1. And with Chicago's defense, I mean, he's gonna get in the playoffs.
Orton because Kyle Orton is also an experienced quarterback. He actually has a winning record as a starter coming from Chicago to Denver. Granted, both teams has holes. They're like Swiss cheese, baby. They got holes all over the place. They got to fill them. But by Chicago giving up all their first-round draft picks, then they've eliminated that chance for them to help rebuild their offense and their defense. Whereas Denver's been suffering as well, but they got those draft picks. Yeah, it's going to take time. That's why I say Chicago, short term, yes, they're going to win. Denver in the long term will be the succeeding team in this deal. And I think that in McDaniel's offense that he runs in Denver, this shotgun-oriented style offense, Kyle Orton's going to be a great quarterback in that system, just like he did when he was at Purdue in college. Everything that Jay Cutler wasn't in that offense is what Kyle Orton will be in that offense.
Well, you're always going to be able to say that Jay Cutler has this baggage attached to him, but at the same time, he was not happy as a Denver Bronco. And still, look at the stats that he put up. As you mentioned, 4,500 passing yards, 25 touchdown passes. His stats are better than that of Kyle Orton. And with a solid defense and a good running game and good special teams, I mean, who's to say that Jay Cutler isn't going to be? He's going to be with this team for the long term. He hasn't been in the league that many years, but a lot of people are acting like he's been in this league for 10 years and he's on the verge of retirement. No, he's not washed up. He has a bright future ahead of him, and I think the Chicago Bears have a bright future with him at the quarterback position.
Right, but I mean, you mentioned Cutler having a strong arm and everything, but what good is a strong arm when you're laying on your back looking straight up in the sky in Chicago? Because you ain't got an offensive line to protect you. You don't even have an offense. You don't have anybody to throw to. Michael Vick had a strong arm, but he had nobody to throw to. Look what happened to him. But, I mean, you go back to Orton here. Yeah, he's not the sharpest tool either. But, again, Denver gets these number 1 picks where they can turn those picks into players that they want. So even if Kyle Orton isn't the quarterback that they want for the future, he's the guy that can come in right now. He has a winning record. He's shown improvement over the years. He's still young. He has the talent. But then, at the same time, they have those number 1 picks, especially next year, with a great quarterback class coming in to the NFL draft next year with Tebow. You've got Colt McCoy and Bradford next year coming in. You're going to have selections where they can use that number 1 pick to make that franchise quarterback right there. Orton is not eye candy, but he did gain a lot of trust with former teammates when he was playing hurt, hobbling around in Chicago.
But then again, when you speak of draft picks, it's going to take time to mature, and you don't know how they're going to mature. They could be a bust, but you're not getting a bust in Jay Cutler. Also, you mentioned the offensive line in Chicago. Yes, it's not really that strong, but they do have a decent running game in Chicago, which is going to bail Jay Cutler out a lot.
Yeah, it could. I mean, but again, where the offense is what needs to be reiterated in Chicago, that's what defense needs to be done in Denver. But even with that offense, again, you can't go with just a solid running game. You also have to have that passing game because Cutler is a throwing quarterback. 4,500 yards, that's a lot of yards. You know, he has to have someone to throw to. Granted, right now there's a lot of receivers out there and coming up in the drafts, also a lot of free agent wide receivers out there, guys that have been cut. So there's options out there for Chicago. But at this point in time, again, I say, Chicago will win in the short term. But in the long term, it's obvious that Denver they got the better end of the deal. I truly believe that because it's going to be great for Denver to get what they got for Cutler because he was disgruntled, and they're lucky to get what they got for him because he could have just walked for nothing pretty much.
Sure. So moving on to game balls then?
Yes, let's go to the game ball. Who's your game ball?
I got to give my game ball to Zach Duke of the Pittsburgh Pirates for his performance on opening day against the Astros, where he tossed a 4-hit complete game shutout, and he's 2-0 right now with a 0.59 ERA. He's finally returning back to the form that he was in 2005.
Nice. I'm also going to stick in the game of baseball. I got to give my game ball to Nick Adenhart. Everyone knows the story of him. Young, promising talent, pitches a beautiful game for the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Very next day, he's killed in a car crash. Nothing he could do about that. He's just a couple months older than I am, and it was just a shame to see him go. He's going to be missed. Most of his teammates respected him for much more than just what he did on the field, also for what he did off the field. We're going to get Rhino some Slim Fast for his head. Meantime, you sit back and relax for more 3 and Out. Coming your way in 1 minute.